Hello and welcome to the final episode of our second series of High Street Histories, exploring the streets, shops and buildings of South Lowestoft and Kirkley. I'm Dean Parkin.
And I'm Ivan Bunn.
And here we are back at St John's Church again. But this must be a really early photograph. So what sort of year is this, Ivan?
This is in the, I would say, in the late 1870s, and as you can see at that time the church is standing in quite splendid isolation as well. We haven't got the buildings to the south of it. What did exist was that wonderful edifice that you can see on the left hand side of the picture. This is in actual fact part of the livery stables for the Royal Hotel. This is the corner of Parade Road North. The other road laid out by P2 to take you to the northern end of the Esplanade.
But those livery stables in more recent times became part of the Palace Cinema.
But this was what was known as the winter entrance to the cinema.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure why it had a winter entrance. The cinema itself, you can see in the picture of the gable end of that, right at the very top right-hand corner of the picture. That's the actual cinema. And that entrance was still being used, certainly in the 1960s.
Yeah.
I went and actually walked through that entrance as a teenager to go and watch the premiere of the war film The Longest Day.
Right.
So
from the stables to a cinema we can see what it is today, can't we? This for a long time now has been Notley's Bar and Restaurant.
And as you can see on the right hand side there has been a bit of new build there as well, added on to that little corner plot.
Before that, for many years, this was Notley's auction rooms and offices on the northeast and northwest corner of this site, wasn't it? And then they kept the name as a little nod to the past.
Yeah, Notley's is the name of the bar. Right?
Yeah. So let's go back again in time.
So if we could walk up Parade Road North out onto Royal Plain and then turn round, this is the front of the building.
It lives up to its name of the palace, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did, yeah. Architecturally, it's a very interesting building because although it looks grandiose stone, it's actual ferro concrete. The idea was that you had an iron framework and then you covered it with concrete to emulate these wonderful classic designs. This would be, I'm certain, would be seen as state-of-the-art building. And I mean, although it looks nice, it's cheap. Far cheaper using ferro concrete than having to buy Purbeck stone or whatever. It was, in actual fact, opened on the 14th of July 1913. It's not referred to as a cinema at all. So World's Photo Plays, there we go, and they're not films at all.
No expense has been spared in making the palace. So we just heard that with the ferro concrete there was a bit of expense spared.
Interestingly enough, certainly in the 1960s, when it ceased to be a theatre and became a cinema, I used to go there quite regularly as a kid. I can never ever remember using this entrance. It was always that little corner winter entrance, even in the summer.
But by the early 1960s, bingo was taking over, and the Palace showed its last film in 1965 and became a full-time bingo club. But that didn't last long, and on Tuesday the 26th of July 1966, it met this rather sad end, didn't it?
Yeah. This is the view, in actual fact, from the bottom of Belvedere Road.
Okay.
You can see the remains of the old Royal Hotel livery stables are still there. Here you can see the whole building is gutted by fire. And you can see how badly gutted the building was, but also gives some idea of the size of the interior of the auditorium as well.
And you can see that there was no way, really, that the Palace Cinema was ever going to be rebuilt after that.
Definitely.
But just up the road, there is still today the East Coast Cinema.
This is an interesting building. It was built in 1925, in fact, by a local estate agent, actually, a Mr. Simmons, and it was called the Bridge Hill Pavilion. It was built as a vaudeville theatre. Around 1928, it was renamed the Playhouse, and it was quite a large theatre by then. 631 seats, and it had a stage, a proscenium, and 5 dressing rooms as well. So it's still being used as a theatre, doubled as a cinema and a live theatre as well. On 27th of May 1946, it opened with a play, The Flare Path, followed by another one called The Sacred Flame. And after only 2 days' operation, ironically, it was gutted by fire on the 1st of June 1946. It was rebuilt again and reopened in 48 as the Arcadia Theatre. Even by 1954, they're still running as a theatre, but it was showing cartoons and short films in the afternoons and live theatre at night. And of course, in 1954, Stanley Jackson's Standard Players Company were providing the entertainment, the act, and amongst them for a while was Sir Michael Caine. He wasn't Sir Michael Caine then, and he made 9 appearances on the stage there in 1954-55, and he said that the repertory company in Lowestoft, because he wasn't a very good actor, gave him a very hard time, but he learnt some salutary lessons in Lowestoft about acting that he followed for the rest of his career.
So the Arcadia was renamed again in 1960 and became the Theatre Royal, but that didn't last too long because theatre and cinema at the time were losing their audiences to television. So just like the Palace over the road and the Grand up the street, the Theatre Royal became a bingo club for nearly 30 years.
Yep, and it closed as a bingo club in August 1989, and it reopened in the November that same year, in actual fact, as the Hollywood.
It's nice to see a bingo hall becoming a cinema for a change.
Yes, that's true. And it was a cinema then. Yeah. It grew and grew.
It was renovated in 2007, now with 4 screens.
Yeah.
It was renamed East Coast Cinema in December 2011.
And continues to be well supported today, I understand.
Yes, yeah.
Going back over some of the stuff we've looked at over these short presentations, you can see that from the late 19th century right through, London Road South and Kirkley has been quite a focus on the communal swimming baths, slipper baths, public halls, cinemas.
And it's been great, hasn't it, exploring the place and talking about the history.
Yes.
So a big thank you for coming along and watching High Street Histories Series 2. And thank you, Ivan.
And thank you, Dean, for putting the whole thing together. I just sat here burbling. It's up to you now to snip it and edit it all together.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening.